When it comes to brutal empires in fiction, few are as lethal as the Saiyans from Dragon Ball and the Viltrumites from Invincible. Each in their own way dominated galaxies, spread terror, and showed how an entire race can be molded for war. The Saiyans were sent to exterminate worlds under Frieza's command. Meanwhile, the Viltrumites imposed their superior evolution through brute force. But what if these two titans collided at the height of their power? Who would emerge victorious? The warriors with tails or the mustached conquerors? The reason for making this video is due to a viral post on the internet about 50 Saiyans versus 50 Viltrumites. Now, these comparisons have become trendy after 100 humans versus 1 gorilla. As always, classic clips emerged of Master Roshi destroying the moon or King Vegeta obliterating planets. But while Saiyan power impresses, many underestimate the Invincible universe, which has its own rules, scales less exaggerated at first glance, but extremely dangerous. And that's what makes this comparison really interesting, because it's far from one-sided. Or rather, I'd say that in my analysis, this is one of the most balanced of all. So buckle up, grab your popcorn. If you're on mobile, hit the hype button to help the channel. Leave your like, and let's see who would win this epic war between Saiyans and Viltrumites. Many people believe any Saiyan already surpassed Raditz, but this doesn't hold up. Raditz was weak compared to the big names, but he was still an elite warrior, even being low class. Toriyama even placed him in the same hierarchy as Nappa, even though their powers were different. This indicates most Saiyans sent to smaller planets were average soldiers, while a few, like King Vegeta and young Vegeta, were on another level. Bardock in the classic version barely passed 10,000 in power level. In Dragon Ball Super, with his breakthrough form, he reaches levels above, able to rival Turles before the Tree of Might fruit. Turles, by the way, already had over 19,000 power without buffs, and probably reached 30,000 final power. During the Ginyu Force era, characters like Jeice were close to Frieza's elite soldiers. Vegeta, still in Z, was considered a rare prodigy. Most of the race was far below him, being classified as low-class Saiyans, with few members, about 10, being mid-class. And only Vegeta and King Vegeta were high-class. So Vegeta considered himself a high-class Saiyan, being one of only 2 Saiyans like that. Broly might be high-class, but power level wasn't necessarily linked to Saiyan class. And I already made a video explaining Saiyan hierarchy that few people watched, but it's there for whoever wants to see. Speed is essential and was one of the determining factors for my video comparing Thragg to Raditz. Even average Saiyans under Frieza already showed incredible feats. In Dragon Ball Z, we see characters reacting to energy blasts that cross lunar distances in milliseconds. This puts them above light speed. This has been widely discussed on the channel. Now, the elites like King Vegeta, Super's Bardock, Turles, and Classic Vegeta are in another category. Based on the anime, these characters operated speeds many times faster than light, perhaps even thousands of times, depending on the scene. An example is King Vegeta destroying 3 planets with a single explosion, so fast the impacts seem simultaneous, all without transformation. Of course, Dragon Ball's universe doesn't follow real physics, but tries to remain coherent within its own internal logic. If someone reacts to light, naturally, it's because everyone operates at that level, and elite Saiyans live in that territory. The Viltrumites go far beyond what they seem. Arriving at Invincible's race, the first impression is that Viltrumites wouldn't stand a chance against Saiyans. But this changes quickly when we look at their feats carefully. Their durability borders on ridiculous, facing extreme environments like space vacuum, direct impact against ships at interstellar speeds, and even energy explosions with power comparable to stellar events. In terms of resistance, the scale becomes more balanced, because most Saiyans didn't have Raditz's power. Despite it being discussed on the channel that he has the level to destroy a planet, even if a small planet, the vast majority was even weaker than Raditz, with a level of 2,000 already being very strong for a Saiyan. And Nappa had double that, and was also a planet destroyer, but probably couldn't destroy giant planets. But destruction isn't everything. There are other means for this war, and weapons. Well, Space Racer has a cannon capable of vaporizing stars, and even with that, he needed help from Omni-Man, Mark, and other Viltrumites to destroy the entire planet. In other words, Viltrumites deal with weapons and technology that place them on a threat scale comparable to divine races in other universes. In Dragon Ball's world, it would be like the Namekians caring for the giant spheres, items that influence the balance of entire planets. But returning to resistance and power scale, if Saiyans can destroy with great ease, how much can Viltrumites resist? Well, if there's something that defines Viltrumites, it's the capacity to continue fighting in conditions that would make anyone else fall. Proof is Thragg. Even with his abdomen torn and bones showing, faced Mark for days, not hours, entire days of pounding, without pause and without mercy. He's not the only one. Mark, Nolan, Alan, all have demonstrated extreme levels of stamina. They fight in space, under extreme pressure, without oxygen, and still keep fighting because they can hold their breath for a long time. Moreover, Viltrumites can survive for 2 weeks on a single breath without eating anything during that time. This transforms each of them into a war machine functional for long periods, even in hostile environments, which favors a war scenario like this. Another aspect, probably one of the most impressive in the series, is Viltrumite speed. Omni-Man, even injured and slowed down, was capable of crossing entire galaxies in a matter of weeks. This puts his speed at up to billions of times the speed of light, depending on the version analyzed, comic or animation. If he did this in that state, imagine what Thragg or elite hybrids can do. Mark, in his final phase, also reaches this level. And more importantly, all this at base, without transformation, without activating extra powers. Now let's talk about raw power. In the series, Battle Beast endures for days attacks from an enemy capable of absorbing nuclear explosions and returning them amplified, and survives. This alone would be enough to place him far above anime warriors. But the real highlight is Thragg. Before his final form, he was already so strong it took 4 elite Viltrumites to contain him, all with feats similar to Mark's or Alan's. And if you think this is an exaggeration, it's worth remembering that Alan, in his upgraded version, with scars and much more muscular, managed to face 5 elite Viltrumite hybrids. These hybrids mix Viltrumite DNA with scientific modifications, making them even more dangerous. Result? Each modified elite Viltrumite already rivaled the best base warriors of many universes, and 5 of them together still weren't enough to easily take down Alan. The Viltrumite scale goes far beyond planets and enters stellar territory. In the comic, weapons are capable of destroying suns or channeling enough energy to keep planets habitable for years. This places Viltrumites, especially elite ones, at stellar power levels when using these resources. Even if this concept doesn't directly translate to attack damage, it shows the threat level certain characters face or represent. In Dragon Ball, of course, characters like Goku and Vegeta have destroyed planets, even casually at higher levels. But in the Viltrumites' case, this power is native. They don't need rituals, transformations, or deities to reach this scale. And of course, we're comparing Saiyans from planet Vegeta, without Goku and Vegeta and without Super Saiyan. Just the original races, let's say. When we talk about power scale, no standard Viltrumite nor a standard Saiyan can destroy a planet. According to the legendary Super manga, a highly referenced Dragon Ball guide, 10,000 power level is needed to destroy a planet. That means Vegeta and King Vegeta could destroy a planet. Bardock in Super's version too, but not the others. Although it has just been debated on the channel that smaller planets can be destroyed with lower power levels, but with average power from 500 to 10,000, most of them wouldn't be capable of this. But would Viltrumites be? Well, Viltrumites alone are dangerous, but when elements like genetic modifications and technology enter, the game changes. We've seen in the comic resurrected versions of Viltrumite warriors receiving mechanical improvements, and the series official manual reveals that first models had 10 times more resistance and reflexes than the original body used. This before upgrades or funding. Translating, if a normal Viltrumite is already a problem, a reanimated Viltrumite is 10 times worse. More resistant, faster, more brutal. Not to mention elite hybrids like Thragg's children, who are already born with power levels comparable to Mark's in his advanced phase, and have potential to go much further. If each is worth 2 or 3 common ones, facing them is like fighting an army inside a single body. But who would be stronger? When we place modified Viltrumites and hybrids face-to-face with base Saiyans, the comparison starts to tie. Viltrumites reach stellar power without visual mutations or transformation screams. Saiyans, on the other hand, count on resources that greatly expand their reach. Characters like Vegeta in Z or Super, Turles with the Fruit, Bardock in Super's version, or even young Broly already scale beyond stellar scale, depending on the source used. So what would happen when we place Empire against Empire? Up to here, we talked about individual powers. We saw that Viltrumites usually have capabilities Saiyans don't have, with greater resistance, capacity to not die in space, great durability, and also great power. But Saiyans, on the other hand, have advantage in destructive scale, more raw power, but less speed. But what if we place both complete empires face to face? Imagine the height of the Saiyan Empire with elite soldiers, average troops, and even figures like Bardock and young Vegeta. And on the other side, the top of the Viltrumite Empire after the Second War. Few in number, but absurdly powerful, including hybrids and veterans like Thragg. The Saiyans before genocide had a much larger population. Meanwhile, Viltrumites were reduced to less than 50 pure ones. But each surviving Viltrumite was a war machine that could face several enemies alone. For example, the twins, Thragg's sons, fought equally with advanced versions of Mark. These would probably be sufficient to fight Raditz, and although much less powerful, would be much faster and capable of leading Raditz to losing situations. However, against Saiyans like Bardock, young Vegeta, or King Vegeta, they wouldn't be sufficient anymore. However, Viltrumites have many advantages. In terms of strategy, Viltrumites have great advantage. They analyze combat, study weaknesses, and know when to retreat. Meanwhile, Saiyans, mainly average ones, often fight guided by instinct, underestimating the enemy. Besides, Viltrumites possess amplified senses, vision beyond human spectrum, extreme reflexes, and sharp hearing. Meanwhile, we've seen Goku be caught by surprise by bullets or rocks when relaxed. In a long war scenario, Viltrumites could resist for days without needing to eat, breathe, or rest, while Saiyans, even powerful ones, could fall from exhaustion or imprudence. Unless only elite Saiyans remain, brute force wouldn't be enough to guarantee long-term victory. So, in this case, victory would depend on context. Saiyans have planet-destroying blasts and access powers that go far beyond average scale. Vegeta, for example, could decimate survivors with concentrated attacks after hours of war. And despite indirect combat advantages, one factor would determine the war's outcome. And this factor is the Ozaru. Saiyans have the capacity to create an artificial moon, and the most experienced, like Bardock, Vegeta, and King Vegeta, had the capacity to control the giant ape, and this form multiplies their power by 10. In Dragon Ball, a character 10 times stronger than another doesn't just have 10 times the strength of the other. It's actually much beyond that because that power is multiplied by 10. Thus, Bardock, for example, in his prime form at 50,000 would have, for instance, approximately 1 million power. Double Frieza's first form power, who destroyed planet Vegeta with just one finger, multiplying his speed, his destructive power. So no matter where the Viltrumites are, if they're on the battlefield, a set of various energy balls from various conscious Ozarus could easily sweep the Viltrumite race, giving victory to the Saiyans, although they'd need to resort to this heavily. Leave a like, comment your opinion below, it's very important.